What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Established Run's NBA Injury Report Analysis Show. 11-game slate today, a little bit different from the little in-season tournament baby slates we've had all week long. With me to walk through it, as always, is Mike Gallagher. Mike, how are you feeling on big slate day with a lot of teams that haven't played since at least Saturday?
Yeah, I haven't written a big matchups column in a little bit. The schedule's been pretty late Monday, Wednesday, Friday with the in-season tournament stuff. So a lot of work yesterday, but got it done last night. Got a hike in this morning, feeling pretty good. Yeah, a lot of quotes, a lot of returns, a lot of rotation changes coming. Some that are going to happen today, some are going to happen soon, some we don't know. So we'll talk a lot about that. Yeah, this is tough. A lot of people haven't played, that you mentioned, since Friday or Saturday. So a whole lot changing from health, minutes restrictions, and all that stuff. So we'll try to set everyone up the best we can.
Yeah, and certainly if teams were going to implement any changes rotationally, this would be like a really good time to be able to do so because they actually were able to practice. A lot of teams during the course of the NBA season aren't able to get practices in. So it'll be interesting to see. It does bring a little bit more volatility to trying to project some back end stuff. So we'll go through it with the news and notes that we have. Let's start with Memphis and Detroit. On the Memphis side of things, an always lengthy injury report. We are getting closer to John Morant's return, but it will not be this week. There was John Morant, Marcus Smart, Jake LaRavia, Luke Kennard, Brandon Clark, and Steven Adams. No questionable tags. So we know what we're dealing with Memphis. What does that mean for them tonight?
Yeah, we saw Derrick Rose get rested in the back-to-back. He should be back and certainly starting in a really big win on Friday. The game on the screen was Saturday in a back-to-back loss, which actually played really well. I thought it was one of the better games that they played, and the Dallas game was another good one. So the Grizzlies are kind of alive here. 5-14. They should get this game. It's kind of crazy. And if you I was looking at Memphis's schedule. Let me pull it up. Their schedule, it's pretty tough here before Jock comes back, which was 6 more games to go. I screwed up clicking it, so 1 second here. But yeah, they play like Houston twice, who they got to get. They play the Wolves, the Mavs again, OKC. So they got to get this game if they want to have any shot at a play-in. So could see some minutes getting pretty tight. So certainly expecting Derrick Rose to start. Are they going to run Derrick Rose up? I think that's a valid question, because they know that once Ja's back, he's not going to need to play anymore, really. So they might try to get the most they can out of him. Usually that burns people who do that to Derrick Rose, so maybe not. So yeah, Rose should start. Biyombo at the center spot. David Roddy's been playing pretty well for them in the starting lineup. Obviously, Jaren Jackson, Santi Aldama, Xavier Tillman, and Vince Williams. And then I would say Jalen Noel. That's kind of 9. I think Conchar kind of goes away here. So yeah, expect that 9-man rotation. Maybe we see a little bit of Conchar. But I think Zaire Williams is mostly cooked here as they've kind of shifted things. They've got to kind of figure out some roster stuff too. They'll have to get rid of somebody. Probably be Kenneth Lofton Jr. With John Morant coming back and being an active roster spot. So yeah, interesting spot for the Grizzlies, who are playing better these days.
Yeah, I think it might be Gilliard, who they might get rid of in that spot just because of all the guard depth, but maybe not. In terms of Grizzlies and 9, that always perks my ears because we've almost always projected Taylor Jenkins for 10-man rotations. So how confident are you feeling on 9? Because obviously this was a 9-man rotation, but without Derrick Rose last time. And I think we've historically seen Memphis play 10, which it's a big difference. We talk about this from a DFS, from a prop betting perspective. The difference between 9 and 10 just brings a lot more downside or upside, depending on if you're talking about a 10-man rotation versus a 9-man rotation.
Yeah, not very confident at all. They definitely could play Conchar here, but it's just a big gap from the way Zaire Williams has been playing so poorly. And Vince Williams has been just taking minutes away from all these other, these Jake LaRavias and all those dudes. So I think they maybe have to, just because out of necessity. But yeah, we definitely have projected, I think even 11 guys in. We're kind of hedging that 10 spot.
Okay, cool. Let's move to the Detroit side of things. They have a probable tag on Marvin Bagley, doubtful tag on Joe Harris. Stanley Umude is listed as questionable here. They're still without Monte Morris. They've been reintegrating Bojan Bogdanovic back into the mix. What are your expectations for Detroit tonight?
Yeah, we saw Bogdan make his season debut and play pretty full. Sorry, I said Bogdan. Sorry, excuse me, Bojan. And play pretty full off the bench. Commentary from Monty Williams over the weekend, whatever day it was, saying that they were going to eventually look at him in the starting lineup. He said they didn't want to do it against the bigger teams. Memphis is pretty big. So you would think they would start this same unit of Cade, Jaden, Killian Hayes, still going with Isaiah Stewart, who would get bumped out very soon. And then Jalen Duren would be playing pretty good minutes here in a really bad matchup. Memphis's rim defense has really held up there. So, yeah, we'll see. I'm getting the last name guys mixed up today. Star Thompson's minutes are coming down. We'll see if Marcus Sasser could hold off some guys. He's kind of hanging as the last man in. Isaiah Livers is also hanging in there. And then they're on a 17-game losing streak here. You got a pretty bad Memphis team coming in. How they got to get this game, So I could see some pretty elevated minutes. This is the, Mike Gallagher special bad basketball where there's potentially some fantasy value. Certainly these offenses are total trash. Second worst and third worst offenses in the NBA. So, but yeah, I think the minutes could be pretty tight. Cade's playing better. Cade's pick and roll numbers are coming up. They're still really, really down in the year. His drive numbers are coming up, starting to round into form. Maybe Cade has a really big game in a matchup that's very good for him against really weak on-ball defense. So, yeah, this is the nasty game of the night here. Maybe I think the Pistons – actually, I think she like the Memphis to win this game because Detroit's been just so bad.
Yeah, it's difficult with Detroit because they've had like kind of complete lineup changes in the last few weeks. So even if we're talking about, they could play more elevated minutes because they're taking this is like a must-win type game in terms of just kind of turning the tide and looking at the schedule and seeing where they're going to find wins down the road. It's hard to assume who are the guys that they're going to raise or elevate in those spots, simply because we've seen Killian Hayes go from, penthouse to outhouse. We've seen Asar Thompson go from penthouse to outhouse. We've seen Marvin Bagley play a lot at times and then like them go back to like basically using him in spots just as in staggering Stewart and Duren more. I imagine there's going to continue to be more pressure on these front court players with Bojan Bogdanovic getting raised up from a minutes perspective and wing players. So, Cade, Duren, those guys probably feel relatively safe. But as Bojan continues to get his minutes up, I imagine you're going to see pressure on Asar, pressure on Jaden Ivey, pressure on Killian Hayes, all at different times. And it's going to be a little bit tricky to figure out who's going to benefit because I think it's going to be matchup dependent and who's playing better and whatnot. But man, it's a mess. And this is why coming into the season, we were pretty light the market on Asar Thompson. One was like hard to know the skill set and the baselines coming from Overtime Elite. But the other thing was there were so many guys we were having to project minutes for at that time with Alec Burks, with Bojan Bogdanovic, with Monty Morris. And so much stuff got cleared out early in the season with these guys not being available, with Monty and Bojan being hurt, with Alec Burks not being available full time, that it opened up paths. I'm interested to see if those doors are going to close more on some of these guys, and we're going to see less consistent minutes going forward as they get healthier and approach a trade deadline where they might need to flip some of these pieces and then reset and then have another wave where the minutes kind of come back up later on. But yeah, tough situation to project on Detroit just generally. Okay, let's move to Orlando and Cleveland. On the Orlando side of things, they're still without Wendell Carter Jr. and Markelle Fultz, the left knee tendonitis. No signs of improvement for Markelle Fultz because he keeps getting listed out relatively early. They're without their G League guys. They're listing out Kevon Harris for coach's decision, which is an unusual listing that I've seen. He has not been in the rotation, so not a big deal there. Jonathan Isaac listed questionable with a right ankle sprain. What are your notes on the Magic?
Yeah, not much. I think Anthony Black's minutes could be stronger here against guard-heavy teams. We've seen a little bit higher minutes from him there. But, yeah, we'll see the starting lineup in there. Certainly the Jonathan Isaac, had some ankle soreness. He's been missing some time. We'll see if he can play. Don't think that they would up his minutes here. Every time they try, he gets hurt, which has been his MO for like 4 years now. So, yeah, expecting the starting lineup to stay the same. Cole Anthony's minutes have really shot up. A little bit of a push and pull here because the Cleveland guards are so good. So I wouldn't be surprised to see if Cole's minutes come down a little bit here. And then Ingles, Garris is going to play a little bit. We'll see if maybe Mo Wagner could have a bigger impact here, more perimeter scoring against that big Cavs front court. So kind of a pretty terrible matchup for Goga Bitadze, who's been playing generally pretty well. Their defense has been really strong. They've been one of the best rim defenses, and they are the number one rim offense against a good rim defense here. The Cavs, I believe, are number 2 or 3 in per possession rim defense. So, yeah, pretty tough matchup here for Orlando. Thought about betting the Cavs, but can't bet against #OurMagic these days. And should mention Franz real quick. Franz has been playing really, really well lately.
Cavaliers side, they're without Ty Jerome, Amani Bates, Karis LeVert, Ricky Rubio, questionable tag on Dean Wade. Last time out without Karis LeVert, I know we in a number of places in the industry were projecting kind of a bigger role for Craig Porter Jr. He played just 4 minutes, was a complete bust, was a complete miss on our part in terms of kind of over projecting the role in the absence of LeVert. What are your thoughts on what we see from Cleveland tonight? This was obviously a super tight rotation that they ran. I mean, this is 7.5 guys if you combine the last kind of spare minutes there. What are your expectations for Cleveland tonight?
Yeah, they need Dean Wade back. That's how kind of thin they are with the 7-man rotation they've been essentially running here. I guess the headline would be Okoro. Played really, really well. Was the star of the post game presser from GB Bickerstaff. So I think his minutes are pretty secure. We'll see if he runs a little bit tighter here, and maybe they don't play the other guys. Maybe they kind of go straight 8 and bring Dean Wade in to cut a little bit of upside away from Evan Mobley. And Jaron Allen, they like George Niang off the bench. So I think that's kind of the core 8. I don't think they're going to really go to the Tristan Thompsons. Craig Porter Jr. kind of got, some cold water poured on him post game as well. But yeah, it could be pretty strong minutes here. Tough matchup against the Magic with pretty good interior defense. But could see the guards really, really carrying him here in the spot.
All right, let's move to Philly and Washington. On the Philly side, D'Anthony Melton listed probable with illness. Always a little bit concerning when it's illness, when it's probable tag this time of the year, when it's the Philadelphia 76ers. Embiid's not listed on the injury report. As we've learned with the Philadelphia 76ers, that does not mean that he is available tonight. We'll find out when the game tips off because that's when they let us know. What are your thoughts on Philadelphia tonight in this matchup with Washington?
Yeah, Kelly Oubre will be back. It sounded like he's going to be coming off the bench here. Also, Nick Batum dealing with the finger thing. He was kind of not able to do full stuff there. So we know Nick Nurse, much like the way they're a marriage made in injury report hell here with, Nick Nurse coming up with lies all the time, Sixers not filing stuff. So, yeah, based on what they're saying, it sounds like Batum starts, but in the context that this is Nick Nurse, I wouldn't be surprised if Oubre comes in. Commentary from Nurse saying as well that they're going to sub in Oubre early. It sounds like he even did more than Batum. So, yeah, again, expecting Batum to start, but we've got a little bit more minutes for Oubre compared to the two. We saw him play a ton. So, a little bit minutes ceiling coming off for D'Anthony Melton. Obviously, Cork would go away. Robert Covington's minute ceiling would go away. And then maybe we don't see the super duper high minute ceilings out of the Tobias Harris's. We took a half minute from Tyrese Maxey, who's leading the NBA minutes. Now that there are some other options to bring him down a little bit. Certainly Embiid, he got sick. Actually, that's Jaden Springer got sick first. He looks to be patient 0 here. Then Embiid got sick, missed a couple games, and then Tyrese Maxey missed the last game there. So, yeah, they're all back. Certainly no minutes limits here. Well, now I should mention D'Anthony Melton got sick. So, kind of going on down the line here, Tobias Harris, take some vitamin C here. But, yeah, so expect them back. Starting lineup expected to be Batum. Certainly a lot of minutes from Oubre. Covington won't go away. Maybe they play small. We saw a lot of that Robert Covington small ball lineup in the last game against the Celtics. Teams like to do that, though, so still expect Paul Reed in there. But, yeah, a lot of wing depth being injected into this 76ers rotation.
Washington side of things, they have listed questionable Landry Shamet, Johnny Davis, Jordan Poole. That is a lot of guards that they have listed questionable here. Patrick Baldwin Jr. gets the available tag from the G League. Still without DeLon Wright. What are your notes on the Wizards?
Yeah, so partial practice from Jordan Poole, left ankle injury. This is the one that he hurt, call it 3 Saturdays ago when he was a late scratch. But he's been generally pretty good based on the commentary. Minutes were mostly up. We saw that one game where his minutes were cut just because they wanted to play Bilal Coulibaly more, paraphrasing a little bit there. And then the rib injury, which was called a neck injury from Wes Unseld yesterday, he did not practice. Sounds like he's got a chance to miss. Certainly, Poole with a partial practice is not a great sign either from a lingering injury. Last time, that game I mentioned, it was Corey Kispert getting the start. Wouldn't be surprised if they just start Coulibaly. Maybe it was like, okay, hey, we're in a pinch here. Let's just start Corey Kispert. Maybe going into the game, they have a different plan. Still think it would be Kispert, but just something to be aware of there. And then, yeah, it sounds like Johnny Davis is going to miss. So if they're missing Shamet and Davis, there's a couple ways that this could go here. And if they're missing Poole, I mean, we could see some huge minutes here. They might play a little bit bigger, bring in, they like Eugene Yuri. Tyus Jones minutes will be way safer. Same with Jordan, regardless, but Poole will be a little bit safer if he plays. Denny's minutes will be a lot safer. Just really safe minutes overall. But of course, they would have to hang around here in a 10.5 point spread game. But yeah, a lot of guard injuries, as you mentioned. So we'll see. But if I had to rank, I would say Davis most likely to miss, then Sham most likely after that, and then I think Poole's playing.
And I guess the way to think through this, if Davis is the only one to miss, they still have 9 guys that you can see here on the rotation that they were like pretty comfortable playing, right? You could end up playing 9. They don't necessarily need to throw a 10th man into the rotation. Probably ends up getting that way just because of competitiveness in this game. If Davis and Shamet miss, now you definitely need to add somebody into the rotation from that standpoint. You're speculating on Omi Yuri there. Jared Butler would be another name potentially. I think Butler is more if Poole misses because he's a guy that can actually like kind of create his own shot a little bit. But that's kind of like where we're looking down. If you kind of increment like this one guy misses, if 2 guys miss, then you add a piece to the rotation. If 3 guys miss, you add 2 pieces into the rotation. And that's kind of how we're going to get there. But if they are down all these guards, certainly more security on the minutes and playing time for Tyus Jones, who we saw that very first game of the year. He played like 20 first half minutes, ended up playing with just like 28 minutes in that game. And we have not seen those types of halves in terms of really heavy, consistent minutes from Tyus Jones this year. He's been kind of stuck in the mid-20s. So there's a potential here for that to improve dramatically. Obviously, really tough matchup on the whole.
Yeah,
okay.
One more thing to add too, just with Poole, they don't really need, like you would think, okay, they need the playmaking really bad. They kind of don't. Kyle Kuzma's playmaking has gone way up. He's like top 4 or 5 among wings and front court touches. The touch time's really high. His pick and roll handling numbers are coming up. Efficiency has been there, so they got him. They run pick and roll stuff with Denny Avdia. So, Corey Kispert, very different player than Jordan Poole, but they could replace Poole's playmaking with those other guys.
Yep. All right, let's move to Brooklyn and Atlanta on the Brooklyn side of things. Still without Ben Simmons, without Lonnie Walker. In this one, he's been a big part of their bench success this year. And then without all the G League guys, what are your notes on the Nets tonight?
Yeah, so we saw Dorian Finney-Smith miss some time, a bit of a late-ish injury. So we saw a small lineup, which it didn't seem like, Vaughn was excited to go to it, but it worked pretty well and a really big win for them against the Magic. So I think they kind of go back to a bigger lineup here. So that would mean Cam Thomas comes off the bench. I am not confident in that at all. But those 6 guys are going to lock down minutes. I should mention Royce O'Neal as well. Those guys are for sure. They're 7. Dennis Smith Jr. certainly earned it. And then Day'Ron Sharpe would be number 9. It's just a matter of who starts between Cam Thomas and Dorian Finney-Smith. Certainly some big firepower on the other end offensively. So that's kind of why I'm leaning Dorian there. But yeah, the last time these teams faced off, it was one of the best games of the year. 147, 145 overtime win. Mikal coming off of 42. He scored 45, I think, in that game I just mentioned. But yeah, Spencer Dinwiddie's minutes have been strong. Cam Thomas had a minutes limit in his first game and then gets up to 38. So he's off a minutes limit quite clearly. He'll have a huge role. This rotation could be really, really tight. Still missing some players. Maybe keep an eye on Dorian Finney-Smith's minutes coming off injury. But and Mikal's role is coming around here. We saw his role be a little bit smaller earlier in the year. He's really jumped up. Sure, a lot of that may have been because of Cam Thomas, but curious to see the push and pull with how Cam Thomas affects Spencer Dinwiddie, who is going to probably see a lot of Trae Young on him. That could help. But yeah, pretty clear on this rotation for who's in it. It's just a matter of how many minutes they're going to play, especially when you take Lonnie Walker out. But I could see a somewhat tightish rotation here. Maybe they cut Day'Ron Sharpe's minutes down a little bit to boost these wings up.
Yeah, the Lonnie Walker absence could also shift Cam Thomas to the bench just because you need more scoring punch off the bench, right? Like the bench unit that you'd be talking about here, if they were to include Cam Thomas off the bench, would be Royce O'Neal, Dorian Finney-Smith, Day'Ron Sharpe, and Dennis Smith Jr. Obviously they would be staggered in one of these primary scorers with them, but it might just be easier to have an anchor there kind of starting already, and then you can substitute off of it. Don't think it would change the minutes dramatically for Cam Thomas if he were coming off the bench. It would, knock off a ceiling of, 2 to 3 minutes, something like that. But I think the role would still be, massive in terms of ball handling and shooting responsibility. And honestly, that path would also open up a little bit more for Bridges and Dinwiddie as well to be successful if they're staggered more consistently away from each other. Okay. Atlanta side, they're still without Jalen Johnson. Otherwise, it's just the G Leaguers that are really out here. So what are your notes on the Hawks?
Yeah, the big note is the overlap. I've been opining for this overlap between Onyeka Okongwu, my guy, and Clint Capella to get in there, and we finally saw it. 9.3 minutes of overlap for those two guys. We saw about 3 minutes of overlap 2 games ago, after basically 3 minutes combined in the previous games prior to the last two. So keep an eye on that. Certainly matchup here. They played a big Spurs team, big Bucks team. I would be pretty shocked if we see even like 6 to 7 minutes of overlap here. Which is part of the reason why we took a Bogdanovich over that we like. We know this rotation's locked and loaded for their 7. And then Wes Matthews, like we mentioned, he was limited earlier when they first were missing Jalen shots, but that was back-to-back related, I think. So he's kind of in there. Garrison Matthews, AJ Griffin down real bad. He just can't get minutes here. We finally are seeing Sadiq Bey hit a minute ceiling more often. DeAndre Hunter runs into fouls, runs into finger dislocations. He just runs into stuff, but has a minute ceiling if things go this way. Really, really good game environment here. Atlanta tied with first in offensive pace. One of the best games to target. Pretty good spread. Mentioned the last time the fireworks in this game as well. Trey's playing a lot better. DeJounte's been solid all year. So yeah, really good game to target with, as we mentioned, 2 rotations we feel pretty good about, especially Atlanta being pretty tight.
All right, Miami and Toronto. Miami's injury report full as usual. They're still without Tyler Hero. They're still without Bam Adebayo with that hip contusion. They have an available tag for a left shoulder contusion for Caleb Martin. Without the G League guys, without Haywood Highsmith as well. So the Heat did not get enough rest. They still need more for some of these main guys. What are things going to look like in the absence of Bam Adebayo, Tyler Hero, and Haywood Highsmith?
Yeah, Bam's a big deal, man. And this whole Bam hip thing, it's pretty crazy. Miami has the league's worst rim defense per possession. They were number 1 last year. Just a stunning change of events based on missing players, Bam's injury. But their last 4 games, certainly playing Indiana twice, who's a top rim team, they've been wrecked. They've been giving up like 55, 60 rim points a game, which, 45 is a ton. And they're getting killed down there. So that's a big thing. It's kind of why I cover Void, Pascal Siakam, whose rim stuff's up. I'll mention him in a second when we get there. But yeah, I expect Orlando Robinson to start. Kyle Lowry certainly starting. Jimmy Butler, Duncan Robinson certainly starting. And we saw Caleb Martin start for Haywood Highsmith when Highsmith went down. Would expect that to be the case again here. Kevin Love would probably back up Orlando. We'll see if they run some overlap here. They might run a little bit more with the size. And then, Josh Richardson, Jaime Jaquez, those would be key factors off the bench. That's it. I think that's kind of their 9-man. Thomas Bryant looks to be kind of dead in the water here. Maybe we'll see if Jamal Cain sneaks in there if there's some fouls or anything like that. But that's kind of where we're at. Miami kind of needs players back here, especially Bam. Bam's really, really important, and they're missing him in a big, big way defensively.
Yep. Toronto side of things, they're without their G League guys, including Grady Dick. Christian Koloko remains out with this respiratory illness. No other notes, no other questionable tags here on Toronto. What are your notes for them?
Yeah, just that a lot of talk from Pascal Siakam about getting him to be more aggressive here. Certainly a good spot to do it. He'll see a little bit of Jimmy Butler, but I won't be surprised if they put Kyle Lowry on him. So I think there's a lot of ways that Pascal Siakam kind of pop off. We're seeing the drives come up. He's finally scoring off those drives again because that was a big issue earlier in this year. So I really like where Siakam's game is headed. I should mention OG. OG's going to guard Jimmy. So, Toronto's in a pretty good spot to maybe pull out a win at home here. Schroeder's been playing great. Jakob Poeltl's minutes have been pretty consistent lately. We saw him kind of miss some spots, but Gary Trent isn't getting the minutes stealing anymore. A little bit of lost confidence from the bench from Darko. So expecting pretty good role from the Raptors here. And Scotty's been pretty good. He's had some good games here and there, but the jump shooting's fallen off and all that. So yeah, high hopes for me and from Pascal today.
Talk through the idea that you think Lowry might be on Pascal to me, because that is shocking to my ears.
They do it all the time. Yeah, we see him guard Julius Randle. We see him guard ball handlers.
So I agree that he big ball handlers, but I think of it as guys who play back to the basket a lot, not as much guys that will.
I think it's unlikely, but I think that they're comfortable switching on to him too for sure. So he'll see a little bit.
I'm sure they'll switch.
Jimmy. Yeah.
Okay. Because I'm trying to think through the matchups and how that would work. Like who's guarding Schroeder in these instances?
Yeah, Caleb's probably the favorite to guard him, but it wouldn't be surprised if it's Jimmy and then that 1 through 4 switch stuff.
Okay. Okay, cool.
But either way, I think he's in a good spot just because the rim defense is just a disaster right now.
Yep. Let's move to San Antonio and Minnesota. On the San Antonio side, they are listing out all the G Leaguers available tags for Devin Vassell and Zach Collins, which is nice to see. What are your notes on the Spurs?
Yeah, so the big note here is Devin Vassell has been coming off the bench. Pop said it's, quote, a minutes thing because they want him to close. Pretty sharp beats follow the Spurs. Jeff McDonald's followed the team since I've been covering the league, and he's dropping some pretty clear hints that it sounds like it's over. So I'm expecting Devin Vassell back in the starting lineup here. So Jeremy Sohan, Keldon, Vassell, Zach Collins, and Victor Wembanyama will be the starting five. And then we'll still see Malachi Branham off the bench, Trey Jones, Jetty Osman. And then we got some puff pieces from Charles Bassey, who's been kind of in and out of the rotation. Given the size of this matchup, I think he's kind of in there today. But yeah, pretty straightforward. Pretty big dogs. They did hang around the last time these two teams played. Credit to them, and they've been hanging around, pretty decently. The Spurs. So yeah, it should be maybe closer than we think. I'm sure ESPN hopes so. It's national TV game today.
Do we see Vassell? Do we see those minutes start to get to what we expected preseason? It's been a kind of a slower ramp up this time after a couple fits and starts with previous ramp ups. What's kind of the expectation there on Vassell? How high do you think he could get if they fully unleash?
Yeah, probably not full like 36, 37s, but I could see a 32, 33, 34 kind of number from him just because they've been off so long and it's been a pretty steady ramp up here. So yeah, I think he's, like decent starter, but not like Tyrese Maxey or anybody like
that. Okay. Let's move to the Minnesota side of things where Anthony Edwards is listed questionable with the hip pointer issue. They're still without Jaden McDaniels and Jordan McLaughlin. What are your notes on Edwards' availability tonight?
Should be good to go. Had that hip pointer thing. It sounded like he was going to at first maybe try to play through it, but they sat him out for a little bit. So he'll be back. He'll be starting. Troy Brown will go back to the bench. Does Troy Brown take Shake Milton's minutes? That's kind of the next question we have, and I kind of think he does. They've got enough handling with Ant, with Mike Conley, with Nah, with Kyle Anderson. I just think that Shake is almost superfluous here. You certainly want the size. So, yeah, that's kind of my lean for that rotation spot to be filled out. Expecting no minutes limit on Ant. Cat's been playing really well. He's really owned the Spurs, highlighted by his career high game when he went for 30-something against Jakob Poeltl a few years ago. And then Gobert, the roll man possessions are way up. Certainly a function of Anthony Edwards missing time here. But I feel pretty good about this starting lineup. And Kyle Anderson's minutes will come down a little bit here with the playmaking role not being needed as much here.
Yeah, certainly without Anthony Edwards, you're going to run more Mike Conley, Gobert pick and rolls and kind of rely on that. If Edwards returns, we'll see how much of that stays. Charlotte and Chicago, on the Charlotte side of things, they'll still be without LaMelo Ball with that right ankle sprain, without Cody Martin, tagged with left knee injury recovery with that Frank Ntilikina. And then they've got a questionable tag on Mark Williams with lower back contusion. What's your read on Mark Williams' availability tonight?
Yeah, this one kind of came out of nowhere. We'll see. I don't have much on this one. Clifford spent most of his time talking about how his team's so undisciplined with getting back on defense. He had about a 6-minute presser. No one asked him a question. He just went off and talking about how undisciplined his team was. It was pretty cool to hear. But yeah, no great read on Mark Williams. Obviously, if he's going to sit, that would mean Nick Richards, who returned from his concussion. He'll be back, probably getting decent minutes. I wouldn't be totally shocked if they start PJ Washington here to keep him in that bench role. Williams, I'm speaking about there. So,
but
yeah, it could be really concentrated minutes. We've seen, he doesn't mess around sometimes. He'll play guys upper 30s all the time. We've seen Bridges hit 38 sometimes here. So could see those guys playing a bunch. Terry Rozier's role has been really strong. I think he's 6 in touch time since LaMelo went down. Pretty good usage rate, all that good stuff. So yeah, if Mark Williams is out, it could be real tight here. They could run the starting 5 and PJ or Nick, however you want to flip it, Ish, Bryce, and that might be it. And we'll probably see JT Thor sneak in there just because they kind of have to fill minutes. But yeah, it could be pretty tight and a 3-point funnel spot. So Brandon Mill will get left open, PJ will get left open, all that stuff. So we'll see. The Bulls are obviously pretty banged up too. So kind of one of the most banged up games from high end players if Mark does miss.
Yeah, I am kind of in agreement with you that I think they'd start PJ. if Mark did miss. I think keeping Richards aligned with Drummond from a minutes perspective just kind of makes some sense. And then if you need to elevate Richards in Vooch minutes, but like Washington can hold his own against Vooch. So I think that would be fine defensively. On the Chicago side of things, they're still without Zach LaVine, right foot injury management / trying desperately to trade him. Out with Lonzo Ball, probable tag for Alex Caruso, questionable tag for Torrey Craig. What are your notes on the Bulls?
Yeah, we kind of saw this coming. It was kind of BS Q tag on LaVine based on the commentary from Billy Donovan. But yeah, the star of the show was Ayo Dosunmu. We had an over on him that I felt really good about, and he got a little lucky because Alex Caruso went down. But I don't think they could start Caruso anymore. It's just the guy just can't play minutes. I mean, this foot thing is not going away. Billy Donovan mentioned it, a week and a half ago that they want to keep his minutes in check, and they keep starting him. He keeps getting hurt. So I think they start Dosunmu here. So Kobe White, I'll get to in a second. Vooch could be in a huge spot. Vooch loves to punish when small guys are on him, so he would be in a massive spot if Mark will, who is also a favorable matchup. We know centers against Charlotte. DeMar, really strong role. Assists are coming up, starting to get more usage. Certainly no Embiid helps, but even before LaVine got hurt, he's been coming around here. But Dosunmu is going to probably pick up Terry Rozier in that matchup. Kobe White's role is expanded. His drives are up. His touch time's way up. The potential assists are coming up, like 16 since LaVine went down. So, yeah, he's in a pretty good spot here. Pace up game. So, yeah, really sneaky game environment to attack overall.
And if Torrey Craig does miss, how solidified do the minutes get for Patrick Williams?
Yeah, pretty solidified. His minutes have held up pretty strong. I think they would probably bring in Julian Phillips behind him. Dalen Terry looks to be kind of dead. Maybe they run some smaller stuff, not a lot, not too much size. Especially if Mark Will does miss, I think they'd be a little bit more inclined to play smaller. But Patrick Williams' ceiling could definitely be a little bit higher.
All right, let's move to OKC and Houston. OKC side, pretty clean injury report here, just without the G League guys. What are your notes on the Thunder?
Not too much. Josh Giddey's minutes getting cratered. This has been kind of a story. I'm sure people will probably try to draw the off-court stuff in there, but we've seen his play really fall off, and it's because they just need on-ball defense way more when they've got so much playmaking in the form of Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren. These guys are able to kind of create their own offense, so they just don't need the additional playmaking from Giddey. We're seeing Cason Wallace make a big impact. Isaiah Joe's shooting is a better fit as well. So, yeah, that's kind of the only note there. OKC continues to play pretty good basketball.
Houston side of things, they are still without Amen Thompson, who's on G League assignment, along with Cam Whitmore. They're also without Jock Landale, listed out due to illness, and they've got a questionable tag on Tari Eason due to illness. So illness flowing through the Houston locker room and specifically in their front court. What are your notes on the Rockets tonight?
Yeah, we could get some elevated minutes in the front court here. Jabari Smith's minutes have been up pretty solidly. Şengün, just what a role, man. The minutes have been really steady. He's like 4th or 5th in front court touches the last 7-8 games. The usage rate's climbing. He's been off to a really, really strong start. Matchups not as great as you would think. OKC's rim defense has been pretty solid, but I would expect Şengün to get a big piece of the offense, mainly because Fred VanVleet would be put in the torture chamber here. Dort's fared pretty well against VanVleet over the years. Jalen Green probably benefits as well. He'll probably have SGA on him, so I could see him picking up a bigger handling role. But if Tari Eason misses, man, on top of the minute ceiling, there could be, a little bit of Jeff Green. But those guys would be pretty good targets. OKC plays super duper fast, tied with ATL for the fastest offensive pace in the league. So yeah, that Tari Eason one, on top of being a really good rates player, it's kind of a big deal. That would make more of these Rockets guys way more appetizing from a DFS / props standpoint.
All right, Utah and Dallas. On the Utah side, still without Lauri Markkanen, without Kelly Olynyk, and without Jordan Clarkson here. What are your expectations for the Jazz tonight without those 3 veterans?
Yeah, the tank's on here. They are just sitting guys left and right. So we talked a lot about this in our minutes channel with who starts here. So you see on the screen, Ochai Agbaji was getting starts. Now, Chris Dunn was out. He was out for personal reasons. Prior to those personal reasons in that game with Jordan Clarkson missed, it was Chris Dunn starting. So given the matchup that you need the on-ball defense really badly, I would expect Chris Dunn to start. So I think Keontae George, Chris Dunn, Simone Fontecchio, John Collins, and I I still think they're going to start Omer Yurtseven. They keep doing it. We keep waiting for him to get pulled out. But I don't know, coming off a win, got talked up after the game by Will Hardy, so I expect those guys to start. Certainly the bench would be Taylor Horn-Tucker, Colin Sexton. I mentioned Akbaji, I think, comes off the bench. And then Taylor Hendricks subbed in behind John Collins in this game on the screen, so I think he would be the backup 4. He would be at risk if they didn't run 9, and then obviously Walker Kessler and Omer Yurtseven handled the center minutes. Now, a guy like Yurt, certainly a guy that gets exploited against Luka, so his minutes are a little shaky here. But yeah, I think we kind of know the 9, just a matter of how big they're going to play. Does Chris Dunn start? Kind of think he does. So some questions there, but Simone Fontecchio is playing a lot. John Collins playing a good bit. Keontae George's minutes have been coming up a little bit, pretty consistently hitting 30 more often now. So yeah, good matchup for the interior scorers. Dallas rim defense is really bad. So another game, if it stays close, could be a lot of fantasy gold.
Yeah, the one note on Dunn just versus Akbaji, isn't there a size gap between the two of them? Isn't Akbaji like a meaningfully bigger player in terms of size? So that's my one note, is just that, like, I think Dunn would make a lot of sense if you're putting him on Kyrie.
That's
but if
right.
Okay. So I think
Fontecchio
is drawing Luka.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, they've been putting Fontecchio on Brandon Ingram, a lot of like big wings. So
okay.
I think they would try. I think they would try that. That's kind of my lean for Chris Dunn. But yeah, Akbaji, I don't. Akbaji, I don't know. He gets a reputation as a defender. I don't see it, and they never really used him in that role too often as well.
Okay. Dallas side of things, they got upgraded tags of available for Tim Hardaway Jr. and Kyrie Irving in the last injury report update. They'll be without Josh Green, Maxi Kleber, and then they've got a questionable tag on Grant Williams. So a lot of the front court is a little bit potentially thinned out here, but they will have their backcourt pieces. What are your notes on the Mavericks tonight?
Yeah, the Josh Green thing's kind of a big deal. He's going to miss, looks like, multiple weeks. Grant Williams was limited in practice. Definitely, not a fake questionable tag here. Was kind of expecting that. Kyrie was full. He's kind of fake Q. He's good to go now. So, yeah, we know the starting lineup. It's going to be Luka, Kyrie, Derek Jones Jr., whose minutes are way safer now without Josh Green. Grant Williams, Derek Jones' minutes would be even safer if Grant misses. And then Derek Lively, ceiling game. Goes for 20 and 16, 7 blocks, 39 freaking minutes here. Really coming on. And then, if guys are missing, hey, you're replacing Josh Green and Grant Williams potentially. You're missing a lot of defense there. So we saw AJ Lawson pick up a little bit of on-ball D role, played pretty well off the bench. I think he would probably be in the rotation. He might be in the rotation regardless. Probably not though. But Seth Curry also would be off the bench. Really big minutes from him. Omax Prosper also would help out here. He'd be looking at more minutes. And then I don't think Hardy really is affected too much. Having Kyrie Irving coming back really hurts him. So I could see him. It sounds insane, but they might play AJ Lawson over Hardy here just to fill the defensive roles needed, because they do not like Hardy for defense for a good reason.
Yeah. If Grant Williams misses here, just really solid ceiling for Derek Jones Jr., who we've had concerns on the minutes and the playing time. But man, if they're without Kleber, if they're without Josh Green, if they're without Grant Williams, like, Derek Jones Jr. is the main guy to do all of those things that those guys normally do. The only way that his minutes would get cut is via foul trouble or them developing a sudden level of confidence in Omax Prosper that they have not shown to this point. So Derek Jones Jr. is the one to pay attention to with Grant Williams questionable tag, in my opinion. Okay, Denver and the Clippers. On the Denver side, Aaron Gordon listed probable with that right heel strain. Jamal Murray listed questionable with the right ankle sprain. No other real big notes there without their G League guys. So no Jalen Pickett, no Hunter Tyson tonight, or no Jay Huff. What are your notes or expectations for Jamal Murray and Aaron Gordon tonight?
I think they're going to play. Limitations in practice for Jamal Murray, and Malone made it really sound like they're going to cap him here. Certainly Reggie Jackson against the Clippers is a big story. We saw that crazy game on Sunday when him and DeAndre Jordan just did the Shaq Kobe meme highlight on them. But yeah, so expect a minutes limit on Jamal Murray, probably a little bit of overlap with Reggie Jackson. Peyton Watson kind of coming around here. We've seen him play really well in the last couple of weeks. We saw him guard Kevin Durant, really strong game from him there. Guarded De'Aaron Fox, handled him pretty well considering the expectation. So I think he's kind of man, this guy is just tough to peg, huh? We were like, all right, he's the seventh guy. All right, he's out of the rotation. All right, he's the seventh guy again. So, but I think Peyton Watson's riding high. You expect him, Justin Holiday, to be kind of the key bench guys. I think that Julian Strawther probably goes away. Christian Brown, I should mention as well. So, yeah, I think Julian Strawther's kind of the guy that gets cut out here to get Jamal Murray back in the mix. And then we'll see what kind of minutes Aaron Gordon, who, returned, looked pretty good overall. So, yeah. And then also, too, the matchup. You've got these wings. You've got James Harden who's playing better. The point I meant, like, how safe is Michael Porter Jr.'s minutes here now that they're getting more guys? I think that his minutes could kind of come down if he's not playing well.
I saw a stat floating around earlier today that Tyrese Halliburton was one of just 7 players in the history of the game to have a 35-plus points, 10-plus assists, 0 turnover, triple-double. So it's been done just 7 times in the history of the game, and Jokic has done it twice in the last 2 weeks. So we'll see if the ceiling on Jokic comes down at all, if Jamal Murray's reintegrated, but he's been carrying just an insane workload offensively this year from a usage perspective, a little bit out of character. I'm interested to see if things balance out a little bit more once Jamal Murray is full health. On the Clippers side of things, no Brandon Boston Jr., no Mason Plumlee, otherwise no notes on the injury report here. What are your thoughts on the Clippers tonight?
No, just James Harden's role is climbing again. The touch time's coming up again. The drives are coming up a little bit. The usage rate's still pretty far down. And then we're seeing that Kawhi is kind of coming here. We saw Kawhi's usage kind of lag a little bit, but it's really been coming around, shooting the ball pretty well. It's quite clear that him and Paul George are going to be the guys. Paul George has a little bit higher minute ceiling that we're seeing. But yeah, things are kind of steadying here for the Clippers after the rocky start.
Portland and Golden State. Portland's injury report really full. Jeremy Grant out due to concussion protocol. Anthony Simons listed questionable, which is really nice to see. It's been a while since we heard anything on Anthony Simons. Right thumb ligament tear. DeAndre Ayton doubtful with right knee soreness. They're obviously without Time Lord, Robert Williams, and Ish Wainwright as well. So what are your notes on Portland tonight? Do we see the return of Anthony Simons?
I would be pretty shocked if Ant isn't playing. The Trailblazers Twitter feed is just popping off Ant content. And we've seen Scoot get a Q tag and play, Malcolm Brogdon get a Q tag and play in their return. So their way they've been handling it has been him sitting, which brings us to the next, perhaps toughest question of the night is who starts. So my initial inclination was they go kind of bigger. And I thought Ant starts sharp at the 2. Tumani Kamara would still start the 4, Duop Reith season. And then I thought like Matisse Thybulle would start there. But, digging in, as we got some practice clips on here, it looks like they're going to run small. I saw a lot of Brogdon, Ant, Sharp, Tumani Kamara, and Duop Reith stuff in a lot of the practice clips I saw. So that's kind of where I'm leaning now. Always got to trust #TheWatch. But yeah, Ant's going to be full, coming off a thumb injury, usually no ramp up. Billups has called him his best player. So pretty excited for my guy, Ant Simons, to be back in the mix. And yeah, I got to call out Chad again. Chad's quiet today, man. What's going on? I'm always, you guys haven't been saying anything, but, get excited for Ant. I'm curious to see where he's lined at later, but I think he's going to play pretty full.
All right. Golden State side of things, they are without Gary Payton. Chris Paul listed probable here, so that's nice to see. They had been playing without Chris Paul before this little break. Andrew Wiggins listed probable as well with right finger contusion. What are your notes on the Warriors?
Yeah, so the big question is who starts. I think it's going to be Dario, but let's go to Andrew Wiggins, who slammed his hand in a car door to cause him to miss time. It sounds like he's going to play. I think Chris Paul, given his age, and how bad the injury looked, probably capped. So we'll see if they maybe sneak in pods, something along those lines. But I would expect them to start Steph, Clay, Wiggins, Draymond, and Dario. Still have Loon Dog off the bench. We'll see if Jonathan Kuminga can get going here. Really good matchup for him to do so against a horrendous rim defense there. So, and then Corey Joseph will go away. We'll see if Pods could kind of hang around here. Moses Moody probably is earned it a little bit more than Pods, not to leave Moses out. But yeah, I think I kind of know where this rotation should go. It's just a matter of how many minutes are they going to play. We saw Stephen Curry's minutes come down a little bit when CP3 was healthy. Does that come down? They're not playing well, so they probably want to get this win. So kind of a lot of ways you can go. Great matchup, certainly, for Steph here. But Yeah, I think that I should mention the Blazers have been better defensively, but I still think that they're going to score some points.
Yeah, this last game before the break, just another fourth quarter meltdown, late game meltdown for a Warriors team that continues to try to play the veterans heavy minutes, and then they get tired at the end of the game and make a bunch of mistakes. Just keeps happening over and over again. So in honor of that, I've been drinking a lot of tea since I've been battling this little cold for Steve Kerr. Yeah. Let's keep
Glad to see Chat's alive. I was a little worried there.
All right, that'll do it for this edition of Established Run's NBA Injury Report Analysis Show. As always, if you're enjoying the content that we put out here on this YouTube channel, please consider subscribing to this YouTube channel, get notifications whenever we go live. We are considering putting out some more content on this YouTube channel going forward with some of podcast clips and different things like that. So subscribe, get notifications whenever stuff is posted. We're trying to grow this channel to 5,000 subscribers by the end of the NBA season. We'd love to have your help in that mission. If you're interested in any of our content behind the paywall, you can join myself and Gary Hartman tonight at 5 o'clock Eastern, breaking down this slate from a DFS perspective, the good chalk, the bad chalk, the leverage, contrarian plays, so on and so forth. If you're interested in any of our behind the paywall content, you can go to establishedrun.com/subscribe-MBA for more information about our paid premium packages. As always, if you're enjoying the content, please help us by feeding that algorithm. You can do so by holding down, pressing, gently caressing or smashing that like button. However you'd like to hit it, we'd love to have it hit so it can hit the algorithm and help feed our families. It allows us to feed you the NBA injury information analysis you need each and every day to set your season-long lineups, your DFS lineups, make your spread bets, and your prop bets. So smash that like button, feed that algorithm. Nom, 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 nom. We'll see you tomorrow.